Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Gary Kay, and I'm excited to have one of my great friends in the industry, Chuck Espinoza. Actually, you don't need an introduction, Chuck. Everybody knows you. You're the senior instructor at AVIXA. You basically handle all of education. You manage the instructors, the curriculum. You support the PETC, and you also have a great time, it seems like.
I do. I have a wonderful time. I actually don't really think I have a job. I just think I go someplace and do something I like to do, and fortunately, they pay me for it. Um, but yeah, as one of the senior staff instructors, I assist in developing the curriculum. I deliver the curriculum, deliver the education. I work with the other instructors on updating our education and our educational techniques. And I work with our exposition team on our instructional spaces for the show. So we're doing new things this year. We actually are doing like site surveys and looking at our classrooms and making sure they adhere to all of our standards, DISCUS, PISCR, ACU. So that's one of the instructor's jobs now, is making sure when we go to teach that our teaching areas are what we preach. We teach what we preach, and we make sure that that's incorporated into our learning environments.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm excited to have you joining me in California in just a few weeks for the E4 experience. Almo's re-engineered from the E4 AV tour now to the E4 experience, which is a lot bigger. I'm excited for you to come for two reasons. Number one, you're going to be teaching two classes. Number two, I want you to see it, because I think you're going to be blown away for it to what you see for a regional show, because most regional shows are very sort of like packaged the same way. This one's very different. Talk about the two classes you're going to be teaching there.
So the two classes I'm going to be teaching, class number one is designing for user experience. Nowadays, our AV systems, it's not just good enough that the AV system works. The AV system, the technology has to work. It has to work with the space that we put it in. And more importantly, it has to be a friendly experience, a good experience for our clients. We can have an AV system that works, but if it's a pain for the client to actually make it work, if the client has to get used to the system, then it's a little bit more difficult than, say, a system that anyone can walk up to, that's intuitive, that's welcoming to use. And that's when we get these really great experiences, these great user experiences. But the challenge is, how do we design for that? How do we plan for that? How do we prepare for getting the feedback and the input from our users to be able to put this in there? And so we're going to talk a lot about this user experience concept, how industries like the automotive industry have been doing this for years. Web designers do this as a best practice, as a standard thing. So how can we do this with our touch panels and our interaction with technology? The next
Before
class,
you talk about the next class, let me ask you a question about that, because this class is applicable not just to programmers. This is a class that anyone can sit in and take, because in reality, it has, although sometimes you are going to have a touch panel in there, and you are thinking about the logic of what should be the first thing they see and the second thing they see. But in a lot of cases, the salesperson or the person who designed the system, or the person, or even the customer, needs to envision this framework, right? To hand over to the programmer. But in some cases nowadays, we're seeing rooms without touch screens and simple keypads, and even rooms without any control. It's more logically, what do you put on the desk so people can figure out how to use it? This class would be applicable to all three of those cases, right?
Oh yeah, this is great for designers to come in and think about, how can I make that design so that there's the most minimal interaction with the client. Like a customer, say a higher education, an instructor walks into the room, the lighting control senses that he's there, he or she is there, so it turns on the lights. As soon as the lights turns on, a camera turns on and scans that professor or teacher's walk, just like an Xbox camera would log us in based on our 3D image. And they log them into the system. They log that teacher into the system, and there's say a relay mat and a PowerPoint clicker, and the instructor steps on the relay mat. That tells the system you're ready to go. It turns the video on, the audio on, and because you have logged in, you can now, if you've uploaded your PowerPoint presentation into the calendar, it automatically pulls it up, sets the video for the correct input, sets the correct output. When you pick the clicker up, another relay says, screen on, ready to go. I had no interaction with the AV system other than picking up my slide advancer.
Right, and that's what we should be doing. We should be making it a seamless experience. That's a great way to kind of describe like the ultimate simple system. But the thing that's cool about that is there's a tremendous amount of complexity behind that that's programmed into it.
Yes.
That's our intellectual property, right? I mean, that's what the
Yes.
value that we should be selling is the ability to simplify that. So that's the first class you're going to teach. What's the other class you're teaching?
So the next class I'm teaching is installation issues for converged AV IT systems. And this is a lot about the backbone of what happens, what that all those things in the background of what's happening with that. What's going on with our cable is the big thing. Before, AV people really like to go point to point. And as an audio guy, I like my microphone cable to go from the microphone to the snake with no interruptions in between.
Yeah.
It's when we start putting in patches and things like that where we have these different failure points. But with IT systems and the way IT cabling and IT infrastructure is designed, we have patch bays. We don't have a point-to-point cable. We have different even types of physical cable, stranded versus solid, the patch cables versus horizontal cables. And what happens when we don't pull these things correctly, and if we pull a category cable around a corner and it has a 90-degree bend, or if it has tie wraps that are just cinching off those category cables, what does that do? So we're going to talk about some of these problems, and I'm actually going to bring in a test meter with some category cable and hook up some category cable and look at its throughput, look at its bandwidth, and then we're going to do some funky stuff to it. I'm going to bend it and tighten a knot, and we're going to watch that bandwidth drop right in front of our eyes and do things like simulate pulling around a corner. Hey, let's put a 90-degree bend in this, a little bit of stress, and watch what happens to that throughput. It was okay when we had 1080 because we do the math, 1920 by 1080 times 60 times 3 times 8. We come out with about 3 gigs. On a 10 gig cable, even if it's made badly, 3 gigs is not a big deal. But at 4K, 420, I have an 8.9 gig signal. That's barely enough to have headroom on a 10 gig.
Yep.
So unless this cable is perfect, my 4K is not going to get there. So now it is crucial with the new resolutions and the higher bandwidth and the more pipe we're taking up that our cable pulls really have to be good. They have to be, according to what the IT industry says, this is what your cable pull needs to be.
Well, that's a perfect class to take along with my keynote. My keynote is all about AV over IP and the different standards that exist, the different companies that are playing there, the direction it's likely to go, the bandwidths. We talk about the bandwidth required on the network, how compression works. So I think if you're interested in 4K, or if you're interested in 4K and you're interested in AV over IP and you're interested in HD base T, this second class is a class you should absolutely take. And even if you're not technical, you'll get a tremendous amount of information from this class because you'll learn how things work together and sort of the how one thing can affect something else that may be completely unrelated. So I'd highly recommend. I mean, the great thing about the E4 experience is that you get to pick and choose the classes that you are choosing that you take. But here's a chance for one person to easily get 7 CTS RUs in one day. We're offering 12 total. I think the only other place to get 12 at one time like this between now and Infocom would be Infocom, unless you're going to Infocom. So if you take both the Chuck's classes and my class is 1.5 CTS RUs. Are the 2 classes you're offering 1 CTS? Is that what they are?
Yes, they're each 1 hour, 1 RU each.
Yeah. So therefore, you're going to get a total of 3.5 RUs just from those 3 classes. You're going to learn a lot from those. And by the way, there is not a better instructor in our industry than Chuck Espinoza. There is not a better instructor in the industry than Chuck Espinoza. So I'm literally talking to the best instructor in the industry. So if you don't take his class, there's something wrong with you. You got to take Chuck's class. So Chuck, thanks for joining me this morning, and I appreciate you taking the time. He's actually on vacation, so he did this video cast with me on vacation. But I'm looking forward to spending time with you on the 4th and 5th of April. The event is the 5th, obviously. But you and I had a good time together in Nashville. It was your birthday. We kind of hung out.
Yep. It was a good time. We had a lot of fun. And thank you again for getting the entire bus to sing happy birthday coming back from the Grand Ole Opry.
It was awesome to see that place. It was just amazing. California, right down the street from Disney. We have a bunch of people that are coming that are going to hang at Disney on Saturday, including myself. A bunch of people from the industry are going to go and hang out. Hopefully we get others to join us. But But in the meantime, sign up for those classes, e4experience.com. Chuck, thank you very much for joining me today. Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Thanks a lot, Gary, and thanks for your very kind words.
Hey, thank you. And thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.